So this is just going to be a very brief video, a review of decimal addition and subtraction. So the reason that we do this very briefly is that this is not considered a 7th grade skill. This is considered to be a skill that should be mastered, but we need to review it because we need to be able to use it in algebra. So let's say we were asking you to add 7/10 plus 92 hundredths. First of all, if you were to think of those as fractions, 7/10 plus 92 hundredths, you'd be like, hey, Miss Fraser, they don't have a common denominator. We can't add them yet. And it's the same concept with decimals. You have to do something in order for the decimals to be able to be added. And that is, you need to be able to line up the decimal points. So you will notice that when we add decimals, we line up the decimal points, and in order to do that, we put in a placeholder. So that 0.7, 7/10 becomes 70 hundredths. Well, I could, just for argument's sake, do the same thing here and add 70 hundredths plus 92 hundredths. And then I would add the columns. 0 plus 2 is 2, 9 plus 7 is 16, carry the 1. My decimal points stay lined up, and then I would do 1 plus 0 and get 1.62. Over here, I would get 162 hundredths, which is 1 and 62 hundredths. Now, you can put that 62 hundredths in lowest terms, but as far as decimals go, you would be done. Now, what if I asked you to add two decimals where there was a combination of maybe positives and negatives? So, for example, negative 0.32 minus a negative 1.4. You would have to first rewrite this equation. We'd never have minus a negative. We would switch that to plus the opposite, which would be a positive 1.4. And now I need to use just a little bit of logic. Which do I have more of, 1.4 positives or 0.32 negatives? I have more positives because this one has one whole. So I'm actually going to change the order of these to make it a little easier. It's really the same as 1.4 take away 0.32. And then if I'm going to do that out, 1.4 take away 0.32, I have to line up my decimals. And I need a placeholder there in order for that decimal point to be lined up. So instead of 1.4, I'm thinking of it as 1 and 40 hundredths. 0 take away 2, I can't. I need to regroup, also known as borrowing. So if I borrow 1 from the 4 and make it a 3, 10 take away 2 is 8. 3 take away 3 is 0. Bring that decimal point down, and 1 take away 0 is 1. And then I would just want to go back and double check. I did, in fact, have more positives than negatives. So the answer is a positive 1.08. And what if that was two negatives? For example, negative 6.1 plus negative 3.44. In this case, they're both negatives. I'm adding two negatives together. It's like if I owe one person $6.10, I owe the other person $3.44. Altogether, how much do I owe them? I'm adding together two negatives, which means I have more negatives. So 6.1 and 3.44, lining up the decimal point, putting in a placeholder as needed so that decimal point is lined up. 0 and 4 makes 4. 1 plus 4 makes 5. Bring down the decimal point. 6 plus 3 makes 9. And I need to remember that I was originally adding two negatives, so the answer is negative 9.54. So there is your quick refresher on adding and subtracting with decimals, and sometimes they will include negatives.